Good morning. We're here with Scott Adams, who's the Director of Information and Technology Services in the School of Information and Library Science here at UNC. Scott, thanks for taking the time to talk with us. Let's start by telling us a little bit about the many different roles you play here at SILS.
I'm the Director of Information Technology, and that could mean many different things for different folks here at a library science school as well as an information science school. Some folks believe that paperclips or even similar technology is still very useful, and so sometimes we have to deal with what could be considered old technology or simple technology. So it's not just computers and software and things like that. On the other hand, we will deal with information scientists who can be very technical, very cutting edge at points, and so that could be about software or multimedia or high computing, and we have all of those aspects at the school, and they keep us on our toes. We have a small crew here at SILS. It's 2 full-time folks, and we manage about 7 students, and that's a lot of our services are geared towards a lab, assisting with research groups, and providing as much and as many possible services for everybody that walks in that door, students first of our school, as we can. So we aim to please people. That's what we're here for, and we see that as a role of not only library science but of information science, that we are geared towards services, a bridge to technology, whatever that technology might be, for all people.
So tell me a little bit about the lab, the student lab that you have here at SILS.
Well, the lab is part of the library as well, and it's actually called the Information Technology Resource Center. That was an idea. It was before my time, but it was a good one to bring the two together. And it works as a collaborative space. It's not your typical library, it's not your typical lab. There's dialogue, there's collaboration among students that's encouraged, so nobody's going to shush you, but of course there is respect still in the space. But group sharing is a common part of our school for many different projects of classes. The lab and the library are geared towards helping those students first. It is open to all students on campus, but all of our services, all of our data storage opportunities for people is geared towards our own students. As I mentioned earlier, we have many different aspects in terms of research needs of the school. We do technology-related things from multimedia, so we have high-end, or at least what we would consider high-end sort of software packages like Adobe products like Photoshop that aren't necessarily found across campus. We try to keep up to date and listen to faculty, listen to students about what type of maybe web services or web media that would be to build web pages or wikis, or so those take applications that will that will allow the student to learn at the same time as accomplish the task, from beginner level to advanced. So that's kind of a big spread in terms of software needs.
So do you handle the software licensing as well?
We handle the software licensing. Purchase, the university doesn't necessarily purchase that for the school. The school has its own needs. So we do manage. There are about 40 computers out there. That's just desktop computers, speaking of. Within the lab is also a research classroom. I don't know how to explain what it is. It's a space where particular classes, distributed systems, which is a networking, Unix networking class, or a database 3 class, which would be geared towards database administration. There is a space for them where we can set up some machines that we can assist with that at one level, but yet the students can play around and learn, get hands-on experience with those sort of technologies. So.
And you have a some tables where people can sort of plug their laptops in and they're ready to go with wireless or Ethernet connections?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So our faculty require students to have laptops as part of the program, and we try to provide services geared towards that, including space. Mm-hmm. Space is a big thing. So
plugs.
The desktop computers are not do not proliferate the lab in every single space. We try to keep open spaces specifically for students, and our services are geared towards trying to help those students. We provide through many different avenues, different software packages that students have available to them. That we manage that as well for students through a program called MSDN through Microsoft, which is wonderful because it provides OS software as well as database tools, which are particular to our needs at the school. So we also offer Citrix application. Is not the best, in all honesty, in terms of delivering, but it does do web-enabled networking use of software packages that students wouldn't normally get, such as Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, SPSS, things like that are more difficult to deliver to students directly on their desktop because they can't afford the license and we can't afford to put it on every desktop.
Right.
So
it sounds like you stay pretty busy. There must be a number of sort of new demands. I'm sure things have changed when we used to sort of have to license specific databases or software for doing sort of online searching. In today's web environment, has that become less of an issue? Are people just accessing things through the web?
People expect services that are simple, more simple now. So let's say I've been here for 11 years, ever since beginning as a student, and in this position for the last 7. So in those 7 years, things and expectations have changed in terms of delivery of content or the ability to simply just get my work done, concentrate on services that would be, I don't want to learn how to FTP with a command line. I want to just drag it across because I want to focus on my ability to code or my analysis ability of looking at systems. There seems to be that sort of, I'll say a loss almost in some way for students that don't want to learn like every nitty-gritty bit of networking or infrastructure. So, yes, expectation that things should be simply placed, easy to access, with little effort on their part. But that's good. That's what pushes us as a lab, and so in one sense that we can tongue-in-cheek state that we don't think that's that they're just getting lazy. But on the other hand, it is very important for us to be pushed and to provide services that are simply placed. People don't have to continue to learn basic things.
Can you talk a little bit about the networking sort of challenges as bandwidth continues to be demanded and the expectations for higher and higher bandwidth? I mean, how has that changed over the last 7 years or so that we've been here?
Well, the most obvious one is wireless accessibility. In the future, of course, we all can speculate what that will be. Will there be just one wireless technology for my cell phone, for my PDA, for my laptop, and then it will all work? That's the other thing. So if in terms of networking changes, I would have to first talk about wireless and how it's revolutionized and actually disappointed other folks too. It doesn't carry the same bandwidth. It can't get the same amount of information to the end user that they really, really want, right? And the expectation is that it should, which is amazing to me. They think that if they plug into a wall, that it would be the same speed if they're just out in the open air, and that's just not. That's unrealistic expectation. So we have some work to do in order to make sure that expectations are tempered a little bit. So that would be the first thing. But networking has changed dramatically, specifically for where SILS is. We did have a network upgrade. We moved from 10/100 environment to a gig Ethernet, which has been wonderful. But even now, you can begin to see that gig network is limiting. That there are places where we could, in terms of our servers, we could certainly have a faster speed, greater speeds that would benefit us. Still, at this time, it's adequate, the network, at least the Ethernet. But if we come back to wireless, we must say that it's that expectation of folks in wanting to have, secure access. They don't necessarily consider, but some folks that come through here want a secure access that they authenticate simply by just clicking a button and they're all set up. And it's a difficulty, challenge.
So, another challenge that I know you must face is backups. You mentioned security, but the whole notion of backing up various kinds of systems, and especially portable systems, must be give you some. You don't have too much gray hair, but or any gray hair, but keep you up at night.
Well, as one of the schools, as a professional school, we don't necessarily fall under the realm of the larger organization where they can just take that service on for backups. The expectation here at UNC is that we will do our own if we're going to have any. So, again, inheriting some sort of networking backup system, and then of course, as the years expand, and we've had to expand with it, that networking backup system. One of the greatest challenges, as you just mentioned, was probably the mobile devices. So at first we tried to back them up ourselves. Give people limitations by making them say you must keep your laptop or mobile device here for one night, and that was always a great hassle. And then a great partnership actually developed at UNC, which is one of the most successful partnerships between all the schools as well as the larger organization. Using Iron Mountain, and I say that in terms because of the model at which it was kind of explored. The parent organization took a good lead, but didn't dominate the whole the relationship with the smaller schools and stuff. But they worked out a contract, and we work with Iron Mountain. It could be another company, but it works fairly well. It's a network backup. Once somebody takes an initial backup with a mobile device, this is what we're speaking of, mobile devices here. And then, networking at home or abroad is fast enough where the incremental changes on that laptop or mobile device, it's adequate. So, besides mobile devices, the other great thing is just the proliferation of data storage. Drastically, we've grown in 5 years at least 600% in terms of data storage needs. And then, of course, trying to plan for what will it be in the next 5 years as well is always, with research-intensive folks that want a lot of data, would like to do archiving and would like to do research projects geared towards that, is always hard. So to build a system that's scalable, that might fit a grant in the future, is always problematic too. So it always has to be considered for me. But backing up those large amounts of data sets has been challenging and costly. It's very costly to buy the whole, not only a software package, but the hardware in order to do it. And of course, the disk space is here nor there. And in banking yourself on one technology, it's always a gamble. And so you want to get at least a good 5 years out of a system, a hardware system. The software has to be updated over time. It's been a challenge, but it's pushes us again.
One other component is the sort of the people elements. So you provide training for instructors who want to do new kinds of classroom delivery. You support students. What are some of the challenges there, and how do the students who work for you actually fit into that?
Try to answer that first part.
Yeah.
So I would say the largest challenge of trying to provide training or helping people learn about new technology is literally just that communication mechanism. I think often folks want to give single answers or one system in order to provide this is where you should go. And that's just not a reality for the way all people are. Everybody has different modalities, different ways of learning, different ways that they like to encounter. And then from one month to the next, they might wish to learn differently. They might be more willing to look online and find their answer because maybe they had a good experience recently. But so often we struggle with the idea of should it be one-on-one training, group sessions of training, providing fact pages, FAQs, to provide how to do things. We come in an environment where it's very difficult to figure out exactly what people need. Do campus? Can we point towards campus online activities modules that people can just download? Well, that can be disappointing. Sometimes people really want one-to-one interaction, and not necessarily in a small group environment even. So we've provided sessions where you can come, faculty or students can come, and sometimes they don't come.
Right.
So even though that's what they demand. So people don't necessarily know what they want either, and I think that's the problem.
Right.
So I think anybody could always be criticized, and we could be criticized for not providing what people want, but sometimes it's really the end user doesn't know what they want either. So
Right.
that's a difficulty, and always a struggle to teach new things. As faculty probably well know too.
Yeah.
So how do our students fit into this equation? And I think we have a really good program in working with students. I think we do. It's a big thing for us to invest in students. We invest in their education. We hire our own students, and we could just as well hire one more full-time person with the amount of money, or 1.5 more people with that same amount of money. But instead, I think it is part of our mission, I think, that we hire students that are information science students or library science students, and we have both. We make a commitment to work with them. The advantages is their high amount of energy when they come here, and their just willingness to just try to soak in as much as they possibly can to get experience. That's our opportunity for us. We provide them an opportunity for experience, and we're extremely flexible in giving them opportunities. Whether it's coding, whether it's databases, because of the school that we are, we provide a lot of different avenues that they can explore. And system administration with either desktops, which I haven't had too many students actually do have an interest in, but more system administration with servers. Absolutely, they just, we have the distributed systems class where they can get some basic information, basic tools, but when to apply them actually in an environment, which is the real key here.
Yeah.
They get to work in an environment that needs their help, that needs their thinking cap. They must think about what they're doing, because people will suffer if they don't.
Right.
So that's our mission. I think that I enjoy working with students. It gives me a lot of energy, but it can also be tiring because they graduate in 2 years.
Right.
So that can be hard on an organization over time as well. Things get lost. Have to constantly train. But I think the advantages still outweigh the disadvantages. If you take that on as a mission. So.
That's really interesting. I think a nice sort of summary here of what your work and the lab and the library sort of stand for. It's in a sense our own laboratory and our own educational mission combined with the actual service of running a first-rate operation, and so I think this is a nice way to think about what goes on here. The other really interesting point that sort of resonated throughout some of your comments were the notion of expectations and how they change, and I think this is a really fascinating and important issue for people who are heavily responsible for information technology to think about, because it's not just about the hardware and the software and the networking, but also about people. You mentioned the customized, personalized needs of individuals, the outreach to the students, and then how people's expectations evolve over time. So all in all, a really interesting and I think first-rate kind of approach to both education and information technology services. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.